Welcome, this is Dr. William Harrison Daniel. I'll be your professor for this course, which is DS 511, History of Methodism Online. This is an exciting new course, experimental course in our new drive to provide more online education for our students, particularly those who travel a long way, have student appointments, and hopefully this will bring the connectional curriculum, particularly for United Methodists, right into your home. Perhaps you're sitting at your computer right now in your student appointment. This is something I never would have dreamed about in my own ministry preparation 25, 30 years ago, being able to take a History of Methodism online class, and it's exciting to be a part of this with you. It is experimental. We are learning together, and that's one of the key themes of the course, is to learn, to be a learning community together. And towards that end, I'll be explaining some features of our course, and you can see here that when you pull up the Blackboard site, which you've obviously already done or you wouldn't be hearing my voice, this little announcement greets you, and then on the left hand side we've got our main topic headings. So what I want to do, starting off before we get into more substantive content matters, is just kind of give you a quick overview of what we're going to be doing through the Blackboard site here. You've probably already got your syllabus, and you find that here by clicking on that site there, and this brings up History of Methodism Online. I'm calling it a global history of Methodism. Global is a funny word. People in the area of missiology, study of mission, have coined this term to describe features of a religious movement that participate both in local cultural dynamics but also have connections to the global world and world views evolving in our era of globalization. So Methodism certainly participates locally and through its connectional features globally, and so we want to look at that aspect of the history of Methodism in Great Britain, North America, and throughout the world, and notice those creative tensions, dialectical tensions between the global and the local. So it's global, online, and local religious geographies of the Methodist movement. We are looking at those features. One of the reasons why I tend to gravitate towards global religious geographies has to do with my own trajectory as a pastor, United Methodist elder, originally from Florida Conference, having served in international settings through the General Board of Global Ministries, both as a theological educator in Liberia and in Eastern Europe, participating in and living, teaching in Austria with Eastern European Methodist students back in the 90s. So I was a missionary. I'm a UM elder. I've pastored local churches, and I've pastored international churches in Vienna, Austria. So I have a little bit of the global and the local religious geography, a wide-ranging geography in my own personal history. And so I wanted you to be aware of that, and it colors the way I come at this course. You can find out more about me here on my faculty bio, the Candler faculty bio. One of the things we need to understand as we go into an online environment is that we'll need to maintain contact with each other. In some ways, this online course gives you more contact hours with me, the professor, than you would ever have a chance to get in this local class setting on site, face to face. But we'll need to set up some rules for that with the contact, and if you have any trouble accessing any of the course materials, particularly access questions only, then email me at wdaniel@emory.edu, which you see here. If you need to contact me by phone, it'll be forwarded to my email account. In both cases, please allow a 24-hour reply time. Won't be able to get instant feedback through that avenue. But when we begin to deal with content questions that you'll be having throughout the course, course materials, PowerPoint material, then we will be handling that through our public discussion spaces, which we'll look at. This course is important for you because if you are seeking United Methodist ordination, it is a required course according to the disciplinary requirements. If you want to be a conference member and ultimately an elder in the United Methodist Church, although there may be other ministry orders that you're seeking, this course is required, and it traces the historical and geographical development of United Methodism and its antecedent religious bodies. Antecedent means those that preceded United Methodism or fed into United Methodism through mergers and reunions. So we'll begin the course focus on the Methodist movement, the Wesleyan revival in Great Britain. We will look at it as a missionary movement transmitting into colonial America, the rise of American Methodism in the United States after the Revolutionary War, and then we will also track main lines of the global geographical diffusion of Methodism through mission, flowering into a global movement. So we'll start with the career of John Wesley, and then we'll spread that message, the revival that began in Wesley and captured revival that was going on throughout Great Britain, and transatlantic revivals going on in both North America and Great Britain in the 18th century, that Wesley was able to capture and to organize and move forward into a lasting religious movement that has spread throughout the world. And again, this satisfies the requirements for ordination and is an important class for you. These are some of the objectives that we'll be seeking to establish through the course, and these fall out in the end to be traits that we wish you to have and learning outcomes that we will expect you to master as you go forward through the course. The student will trace the origins and development of Methodism as a renewal movement within 18th century Anglicanism, which was the locus out of which, or one site out of which contextually Methodism arose as a religious revival movement. We'll look at Methodism within the context of the great evangelical revivals. This will allow you to identify cultural and theological currents that shape the origin of the Wesleyan revival and the legacies of the Wesleys that we still have with us. Although, as we'll see in the course, not all of the Wesleyan legacies come to us unalloyed or untranslated from North American culture. North American culture translated the Wesleyan legacy. You'll also place and track persons and events that transplanted the Wesleyan revival into American culture. You'll notice through the process we'll identify key leaders and the contested theological visions of the ministries of the founders of American Methodism. Never truly a golden age of harmony. With our geographical interest and influence in this course, our emphasis, students will map the story of how Methodism was transmitted spatially. You'll want to know where we spread, how we spread in those various locations, and towards that degree, I've written a book, the Atlas, Historical Atlas of the Methodist Movement, which will be one of our primary texts. This will help you understand, as a student, Methodism's contributions to American identity and also the effect of regional culture and politics upon American Methodism, which still has a clear stamp today of regionalism on much of what we do. You only have to go to General Conference to notice the regional stamp of culture and politics on United Methodism. We'll look at American Methodism and its distinctive traits as it was transformed in mission with American geography, culture, and politics, and this will help students develop an awareness of the cultural and political currents that transform Methodism into an indigenous and American church. And ultimately the goal for that learning objective is to see that the American landscape continues to exercise a profound cultural influence on Methodist polity, theology, and our history going forward. The students will also notice attention will be given in the course to how the traditions have been shaped by tensions and diversity. Diversity is not a new theme that has shaped both North American Methodism and global United Methodism today. The goal of this learning outcome is to help students in their own social location and within their own developing identity understand that Methodism's engagement with American society and the world is now one engaging difference and diversity, and that this too is a part of our ongoing story. It's been an enduring theme, and this will help you locate your own ministry as diverse as it will be going forward. Okay, right then, so those are our learning outcomes, and now we want to continue by looking at our required texts. You have them already. They're important texts. The first one will be my own text, Historical Atlas of the Methodist Movement, along with Russell E. Ritchie and others. Most important, one volume, Methodist Experience in America, the narrative. We've waited 12 years for this, and we are thankful that we have Russ Ritchie's book at this time. What I want to do is show you a site off of our Pitts Library. Pitts Library has a recommended resources for the study of Methodist history. You can find it at this web page here. Guides Theology Library at emory.edu. Just go on, search Pitts Theology Library, Methodist Studies Guides, and you'll notice that there's a number of resources showing here. You can see here that under the Reference Tools section, you can see my own book here, the Historical Atlas of the Methodist Movement. You can find out more about that. That's a required text. Another text that is recommended is Dr. Rex Matthews' Timetables of History, which looks at each event in connection with other historical events and cultural currents going on at the time. And then under the history section, you can find other important pieces. This is also a recommended book that forms the basis of a lot of my reading of John Wesley's relationships and work within the network of preachers, sort of a social history of the Wesleyan revival by Richard P. Heitzenrotter, Wesley and the People Called Methodists. A standard text by now. It's not quite a biography, but it places Wesley in his 18th century setting, both culturally, politically, religiously, and within his own movement. This book here, The Methodist Experience in America, the cover is the same for Volume 1, the historical narrative. Volume 2, which we've had for 12 years, are the primary historical documents that form the historical data that shape the narrative. These are actual transcriptions of primary letters and writings and conference journals, etc.